Lolong is not dull or gimmickless. He actually has a ton of quirks and special things in his fighting style. People are just kinda bad at recognizing them, in my opinion. So Lolong, or well, Rolon, but I don't really like that name change they made, so I will just keep calling him by his original name. The most common complaint against him as a fighter and his character overall is that he's just boring and doesn't have any unique flair which distinguishes him, aside from, elbows. But that's like arguing Cosmo is flat because he centers around strangleholds. Fighters can and should be allowed to be proficient in a certain finisher or style of attack. But that is also just not the case. Lolong has many defining features, though I don't know that didn't really come across well in his fight with Ramon recently, but I know it will against Agito. We will see what he's really capable of. First of all, Lolong may be the best pre-initiative user, aside from people like Shen obviously, up there with Agito and Kuroki. It makes sense since Koga got foresight training from Lolong and Kano together. Lola was styling on Oma's pre-initiative. Also, it's often forgotten how amazing Lolong is simply due to his age. He was 24 when he faced Kuroki, which means Kuroki was 40 years old. By that point, Kuroki had already mastered pre-initiative, so Lolong is the youngest fighter ever to fully master pre-initiative. I'm going by with the assumption that to go toe-to-toe with Kuroki at that point and stalemate him, you would need to have pre-initiative. It would be weird otherwise. Cosmo came very close to reaching pre-initiative during his match with Oma, even mentioning the whole move before he moves shit, but he couldn't quite reach it. His extra close quarters combat Silat also works just as a passive Nico-style fighting technique on its own. And his unique shoulders, which rotates as he strikes to increase their torque and stabilize his core, making his arms like two machine guns on par with Gaolang's striking speed. A speed which can also overwhelm pre-initiative. And the crazy thing is, a buddy of mine actually told me that it works. So I tried it out in a sparring match because I was curious, and it did. It does help you actually stabilize your core, and you get an extra feel of torque when you strike. And the added benefit is also that so many expect you to turn with your hip as you strike, because that's good form. So not many expect your torso to remain stationary, and instead your shoulder rotates to throw the punch. So you have that element of surprise. The drawback is that you need very good lung capacity and you need to be really athletic to keep it up. You need to be well trained as hell. And we've even seen using the full capacity of his rotating strikes. Lolong, he looks visibly winded, so this makes sense. He can also extend his shoulder blades, putting them into the strike itself to surprise people with the extended reach, which also kind of negates the bad joke about Lolong being short and all that. He can also somehow change the trajectory of his punch mid-strike, as if his arm does some weird snake movement thing. And outside of official matches, he's also a weapons expert, since he was in the Filipino Special Forces and literally purged it of all world infiltrators. Realistically, Lolong's win record could be in the 4-digit numbers. Like, he has already over 400 matches won under his belt, and combine that with the supposedly hundreds of worms he's killed, Lolong's status and credit is absurd. It's no wonder people like Carlos, Liu, and Toa thought that there was just no way Lolong could lose. I know a lot of people also claim that if the fight between Lolong and Kuroki had been allowed to continue, Kuroki would have just stomped him in like 2 seconds, due to just the fact that Lolong's brow was like more bruised up and bloodied. But that would be a bit disingenuous to assume, since it was Kuroki who called it off. Lolong was ready to keep going. So I would just go by Kuroki's word on that one. I also love that after Kengan vs. Purgatory, Lolong and Kano became like biker buddies. And I also appreciate his neat fighting choreography. It's just super satisfying to me. People say it's too basic, but in my opinion, when it comes to Kengan, simplicity will always beat like extravagance. So Lolong being simple yet effective is a bonus, not a detriment. Just like how it's not a detriment that Kuroki is when you boil it down, very simple. I think what Sandro was going for was a low-key, like a Rambo type character with Lolong, you know, the fighter who adapts, ex-military and all that. But I think I've gotten my point across that I think Lolong is way more unique and flairful than a lot of people give him credit for. So anyways, thanks for watching and peace out.